Hey, good Saturday morning, everyone. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful start to the weekend out there. And we've got a lot going on out there from an active scene in the tropics with Hurricane Ernesto currently impacting Bermuda and eventually impacting portions of eastern Canada to the tropics kind of waking up here within the next week or two. Also, stormy weather back home into the lower 48 from east coast to west coast. And I am tracking that chance at a big time fall cold front going into this week. So, again, a lot to talk about in today's video. So, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, here to give you the latest on that weather forecast. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely do so. Like the video, hit the bell for latest notifications, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Also, just want to say thank you. The channel's been doing great over the past couple of weeks. We've been slowly increasing those view counts. We've been increasing the subscriber count and getting ever so close to 9,000 subscribers, which is one step closer to that big goal of 10,000 by the end of hurricane season. So a couple of scheduling things here before we get started. I very likely will not have a video tonight or tomorrow night, but we will still be good, obviously, for this morning and tomorrow morning. And then we'll kind of see what happens next week. Next week is my first week of classes, so wish me luck in that. But I'm also going to just kind of have to figure out some scheduling things with that before we kind of hit the ground running with a more defined schedule. But morning videos should continue 7 days a week, so don't have to worry about that. But the evening video part will be a little bit hit or miss probably for the next little bit. But with that said, I think that's enough of me talking about things that aren't the weather. So let's go ahead and get into that forecast for you. So again, Hurricane Ernesto has been the big story the past week or so. Here it is over Bermuda right now. And the worst of it is probably over for you folks. Kind of in the eye right now getting into the southern eye wall. The good news is the backside of the storm is not nearly as beefy as the front side was. So you shouldn't have to worry about impacts being as high. Now, absolutely still impacts. We'll see those gusty winds continue. We'll see some rainfall as well. But the worst of it is definitely over. The other good news, we're not expecting a second landfall with Ernesto in Canada. However, we will see some impacts nonetheless. Now, behind that, into the eastern United States, we've got this big low pressure system spinning over the Great Lakes region, that bringing a big area of cloud cover and some showers this morning. And also bringing that threat for severe weather this afternoon and evening, and even into Sunday and Monday once again through much of the country. Also hard to see because the sun hasn't risen yet, but back out on the west coast, we have another low pressure system that is bringing severe weather chances to the Pacific Northwest and portions of the Rocky Mountains. Now, we are going to start with Ernesto here, and then we will kind of bring it back home. But, well, I guess before we bring it back home, we're also going to talk about the long-range tropics, which, again, does look to be picking up here. So stay tuned for that. But latest on Ernesto, as of about 8 o'clock this morning, I'm going to refresh this just to make sure I am up to date with the latest information. 85-mile-an-hour Category 1 hurricane pressure sitting at about 974 millibars. So we have increased that pressure a little bit as the storm slowly weakens due to some wind shear, some a little bit of dry air even, and kind of that process that it's undergoing, going from a tropical system to kind of a post or extra tropical system. And you can already kind of see that beginning here. Look at these fronts already kind of attaching here on the northern side. You can really kind of see that this process unfolding. But latest track, again, moving away from Bermuda throughout the day today will still bring impacts, but I think by the time we get into tomorrow, outside of some gusty winds, we really should have a much nicer day on the island. Now, moving this up into Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, this is not really your storm. Very likely no impacts at all from this. Now, you could see some rain from the other system back into the United States, but the only real place in Canada we're expecting possible impacts would be into Newfoundland and Labrador here, kind of into the St. John's Bay area, even back near St. Pierre. So these kind of southern areas of the island here, again, could definitely see some more feisty weather with this, but even then, probably not something you haven't seen before. Definitely some outer bands trying to work on through some gusty winds. Will probably be the main threat here. And again, by the time it gets here, it's going to be going even from hurricane to tropical storm as it makes that close pass. Now, it's not out of the question. Could make a landfall here onto the southern section of the island here, again, kind of near St. John's or even further south than there. But impacts, again, are not going to be nearly as bad as probably what we saw in Bermuda. Now, latest tropical storm force wind speed probability map here, it's not off the chart, but there is a good chance that we're going to see some sort of tropical storm force winds, again, into the southern section of Newfoundland. Again, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Maine, the northeast United States, not your storm, although you are dealing with rip current concerns from the system as the entire East Coast is. But wind speed probabilities, again, highest chance of seeing anything tropical storm strength right into the southern tier of the island. And we'll take a look at exactly how high those winds could get here in just a moment. But before we get there, let's finish up Bermuda here, because again, although you folks are on the latter end of it, you're not completely done. So I don't want to leave you in the dark here as we continue to watch this. So again, kind of this little number you see down here, I know it's hard to read, so I'll kind of try to verbalize it. That's the island of Bermuda, and you'll notice already this morning and afternoon, we're seeing lighter winds, probably compared to what we saw earlier, and that will continue throughout the day, slowly getting nicer, although it's going to stay pretty rough through the afternoon. Expect winds to still gust upwards, topping out near 100 kilometers per hour, probably more like 80 kilometers an hour in terms of wind gusts here, but again, it's going to slowly just get better throughout the evening and overnight. And I think by the time we're waking up on Sunday, definitely a breezy morning, probably 40 to 60 kilometer per hour wind gusts here. But by the time we're getting into Sunday afternoon, really calming down and much more, Bermuda-like weather, if you will, here going towards the start of this coming week. All right, Canada here, also going to see, again, some impacts. We are expecting, like I said, a close pass to the southern tier of Newfoundland and Labrador here. Not probably a direct landfall, and it could. I say not, but we very well could see a direct landfall at the very southern tier of the island. But, even then, again, the storm, luckily, is moving very quickly here. So this is the evening of Monday. This is Monday evening. If I move this ahead a little bit, this is kind of near midnight, a little bit later than that, 2, 3 in the morning on Tuesday. And then this is by the time you're waking up and the sun's coming out on Tuesday. So it's going to be a quick hitter. It's going to be overnight, so it shouldn't impact travel plans all that much. But again, it could bring, a quick burst of heavy rain and some feisty winds here. And if we take a look at some of those wind speeds, again, just to situate you here, here's the island of Newfoundland. It does look to, try to get up there a little bit Monday evening. So, again, probably in the order of 50 to 80 kilometer per hour wind gust, I think would be the most likely scenario after the sun goes down Monday, during the overnight hours. And then again, I think by the time we're waking up Tuesday, especially or late morning Tuesday afternoon, Ernesto is out of here and way off into the North Atlantic. So, excuse me, a quick hitting system, but important enough it's worth noting and talking about, definitely. But could have been a lot worse, definitely, should this track have been kind of a direct landfall right through the middle of the island. Now, again, we've been talking about the tropics. We've been talking about Ernesto. You're probably wondering, especially my folks in the United States, well, are we done? Not quite. Latest European ensembles throughout the next 10 days, there are definitely signs of life in the long run into the main development region, and this has slowly been upticking every model run here, and this is the latest one from overnight. And you'll notice, again, a lot of these ensembles are developing low pressure in that 7 to 10 day range here out into the Atlantic. And I think that this is kind of right on cue. I've been talking about the end of the month probably having a good uptick in activity. And again, now through the next 5-7 days, we probably will be in a lull, at least impact-wise for most people. But I think within the next 3 to 7 days, we're probably going to start to see another storm to track here and probably see more areas on the NHC map develop. So again, through the next 7 to 10 days, we're probably going to see a storm try to get going out here into the main development region of the Atlantic, or at least see the signs of, more storms in the future, as we get a little bit closer here. So definitely going to watch that. And even if we take a look at the latest European model run from last night, this is, again, 10 days out from now, but you'll notice we are seeing areas of low pressure here moving off of Africa. And I talked about this a couple days ago. If you missed it, the main reason we haven't had systems kind of developing out here the past couple after Ernesto is they've been coming off the coast a little bit far north. The intertropical convergence zone kind of had a little bit of a shift north, and it just means that where these storms were coming off, the conditions weren't quite as ripe. But generally what you want to see for a hurricane develop, these are the Cabo Verde Islands, or Cape Verde, whatever you want to call them. Again, I'm just a dumb American at the end of the day. So you generally want these storm systems to come off the southern coast of kind of West Africa here, south of those islands. That's generally what gives them a higher chance of developing. And we'll notice here in the long run, some of these are starting to do that. You'll notice the latitude here is getting a little bit further south. And increasing the chances that these storms will develop. So we're going to watch that for sure here in the long run. But after Ernesto, we're going to get a good probably 5-7 days of a break. But again, I think the end of the month, and especially the start of September, getting towards peak hurricane season there towards the middle of September, we're going to have plenty to track here. And again, even if there's not a lot going on in the tropics, we got plenty going on back home, which we'll talk about as well. All right, so this is one of our climate models. This just shows kind of favorability for thunderstorm growth, or basically divergence aloft, which creates rising motion at the surface, which is a key component here for hurricane formation. And this just shows where's that favorable or unfavorable. Now, the kind of purple colors show that that is more favorable. The orange colors are less favorable. And we'll move this ahead. This is this week going into next week, and you'll notice, yeah, we've got a good amount of purple out here into the main development region. And even kind of back towards the Caribbean a little bit, into the Yucatan. So there are going to be some areas to watch here again, I think in the medium to long run, especially again right out here where we would expect tropical development this time of year to kind of really begin to pick up. That could hang around even through a good bit of September. This gets us to the middle of September. You'll notice conditions improving in the Caribbean and staying relatively favorable out into the main development region. And again, I've talked about this as well. Ocean temperatures are off the charts currently. So should a storm form rather, sorry. That was kind of a fun rhyme there. It'll have plenty to tap into. All right, so this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. They issue this once a week, so if you've been watching every day, it's the same map, but I have zoomed it in a little bit here. You'll notice, again, going from the 21st to the 27th of August, we do have an increased chance of development into that main development region. But by the time we get to the end of August, start of September, about 2 weeks from now, we've got a big increase in tropical chances here, again, in that main development region. So, it's going to pick up for sure. Kind of enjoy the lull while we have it. Again, especially the United States, who, we haven't seen a direct impact since Debbie, which, it's been a good 2 weeks or so since Debbie kind of made landfall, I think, or, a week and a half at least. So it'll probably be, a couple of week gap between Debbie and whatever the next tropical system impacts are. So again, enjoy it because, unfortunately, anything is possible here in the world of weather, and we are all too familiar with that in terms of hurricane season. All right, so that's the tropics. Let's talk about what's going on back home because, again, we do have some active weather, and you can see that on radar already. This Saturday, we've got plenty of rain showers up into the state of Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, even into other portions of New England and the mid-Atlantic, seeing some pretty good rain showers. Also, a pretty good mesoscale convective system from overnight last night moved through Oklahoma, Kansas. We had some big-time hail reports out there as well, so if you happen to be watching from those states, definitely let me know what you saw. The good news is it has weakened pretty significantly this morning, although still feisty with some strong storms embedded in there. But again, kind of lost some of that punch overnight. Also, some scattered showers and storms we're working on through the Carolinas this morning. If I look outside here in Charlotte, it is definitely cloudy for sure. We're seeing some of these showers work on through the Nashville area, seeing some stormy weather. And this is just going to be the theme for the next day or two as this cold front and the low pressure system slowly work on through. Now, it's not a super quick moving system. So again, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'll also mention out west for our folks there, we also have some storm chances for you today. And I normally don't talk about the west, but I will in today's video just because kind of not super normal to see a slight risk in Oregon and Washington and even Utah for that matter. So we'll talk about that. But we'll start with the east here today. Again, a marginal risk for many of us through the Ohio, the Tennessee, river valleys as well, through the mid-Atlantic and even down into the mid-south. Really going to see some strong storms today, and kind of a higher risk, a level 2 out of 5 here through much of Kentucky and into portions of southern Ohio, where there is a small tornado threat. So the only threat that is worthy of them putting it on the map tornado-wise is in this yellow area, but anyone in the green area on your map, or that dark green, I should say, it's a non-zero threat, meaning it isn't a high likelihood, but it's never 0% whenever you've got storms moving through with some wind shear. So we'll watch it. But out west as well, again, into the Rockies, the state of Utah, we have a slight risk of severe weather, and I'll talk about why in the video. Again, not a super common setup, but the jet stream is going to play some tricks on us today. Same story up here into kind of the higher terrains of southern Washington state, Oregon, and even extreme north central California there. Could see some strong storms today. So we'll be watching that for sure. And by the time we get into tomorrow, we're going to do it all again. We'll clear out a good bit out west, but we will have a new marginal risk out here through Montana, Wyoming, and portions of the Great Plains. But the bigger threat tomorrow is going to be from the mid-Atlantic through the southeast and the mid-south, where we have a slight risk up for Fayetteville, North Carolina, Raleigh, all the way down the I-95 corridor, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Augusta, Macon, and kind of back through the southern sections there of Alabama and central Mississippi could see some strong storms. But again, anyone in that dark green has the shot at it. Main threat tomorrow, strong straight line winds, some small hail. A brief isolated tornado cannot be ruled out, just not a super high likelihood tomorrow. And then by the time we get into our Monday, another marginal risk kind of here into the mid-Atlantic, back up into the Rockies and into the Texarkana area. Excuse me. So we'll break all that down once we get a little bit closer to it on day 3. But focusing on the next day or two more specifically here, let's take a look at the latest model for this afternoon and tomorrow. So again, all of this is being driven by this big low pressure system parked over the Great Lakes. And if I just go back really quickly to today's outlook map, just to show it to you again, you'll notice you folks in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Indiana, not really, or at least northern Indiana, not really under that marginal risk, but we still do have rain shot today, or shot at some rain showers as that low pressure moves through. You're just on the more stable side of things. So as we're taking a look at today's model guidance, just remember that. Now, this is getting into this afternoon and evening. Again, take a look at this. Storms firing up from the Ohio River Valley through the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. Again, these are going to be feisty. Strong straight line winds, some large hail, and cannot rule out a brief isolated tornado. Again, on the backside here, just some good old rain showers through Wisconsin and Michigan. But on that front side, again, going to see the chance at some strong storms, and that continues this evening. They'll die down a little bit in intensity, but we will still have scattered showers moving through the overnight tonight. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, same news here. Scattered showers working through much of the eastern half of the country, specifically east of the Mississippi. And then we kind of get into tomorrow afternoon and another flare-up of thunderstorm activity. And in fact, I imagine that marginal risk for tomorrow might get pulled north a little bit towards New York, maybe even portions of Canada, back down south into parts of Alabama. Georgia could see some strong storms, and obviously through the Carolinas, Virginia, up the I-95 corridor. Yeah, same story tomorrow. Strong straight line winds, some hail, and a brief isolated tornado. Now you'll notice this is going to be a pretty good segment of storms that finally moves offshore here, going from Sunday into Monday. And after that, we'll slowly begin the process of cooler, drier air funneling down the backside of the system. And we'll take a look at that dry air map in just a moment. But let's talk about out west as well, because again, we could see some strong storms this afternoon. Here we go. This is getting into kind of noon to 3 o'clock West Coast time. You'll notice here we go. We've got some showers and storms firing up here through much of Utah. Again, we've got basically what's happening right now, and I'll show you this on the next map. The jet stream is kind of working in this motion. So what's happening is we're getting some pretty strong flow out of the Pacific right now, almost monsoon style here, and that is helping to really up these rain chances. And with just a little bit of spin in the atmosphere, again, some of these storms could turn severe through Utah. Same story up here into Washington and Oregon. In fact, we even got a little bit of a surface low pressure here that is also helping to really increase that wind shear and that flow out of the Pacific. And that's why we have these slight risks up for today. So this afternoon, you'll notice these rain chances move on through the four corners. It's going to be a pretty rainy day probably. And even into overnight tonight, these rain showers continue. We get into Sunday afternoon. We'll do it all again through the Rockies, nicer through the West Coast, but again through the Rocky Mountains, widespread scattered showers and storms work on through, and then this gets us from Sunday into Monday. So again, out west, you're also pretty active too. This is not just an East Coast event for us. And again, here is why. Our 500 millibar height anomaly map, a big old trough out east. That is the reason we're seeing the storms there. And then another kind of big old bowling ball low off the West Coast. And again, this is just kind of working in tandem. The flow bringing those showers and storms to the Rockies. That trough bringing enough divergence aloft to the east that we're going to see, again, that pocket of showers and storms. And then if you're watching in the central part of the country, specifically the south central part of the country, it's just hot, unfortunately. Not much else I can tell you there. Just a big old heat dome kind of in between our two storm systems. All right, dew point map. Now, this afternoon, again, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be hot and muggy. And just to give you a frame of reference, the purple colors you see, that is very muggy air. The kind of greenish blues you see, that is not so comfortable air, but not as bad as the purple. And then once you get towards the light green, kind of that more forest green, and into the more beige colors, that's more comfortable air. That's when it starts to feel a little bit more like fall. And obviously, it's going to be different for everyone. A dew point of 60 in South Carolina is going to feel a lot different than somebody who has a dew point of 60 in Minnesota per se. So take it with a grain of salt here. But either way, we go into Sunday afternoon, and you'll notice here, we're starting to see this kind of general idea of these dew points coming down with some dry air out of the north. Again, still muggy Sunday. Don't get too excited yet. But then we get this into Monday afternoon, and you'll notice these dew points really start to come down. Tuesday afternoon, I think it's really going to start to feel a lot nicer. I mean, some of these dew points are pretty impressive for August. For example, Tuesday afternoon, if we have a dew point of 49 in Charlotte, yeah, that's gonna feel like fall. It's gonna feel much nicer. Now, granted, the temperatures are probably still gonna be in the 80s, 70s, so it's not gonna be 60 with a breeze per se, but this is about as close to fall as you can get this time of year, and it's really gonna feel quite nice. And the models are hinting this can hang around for a while. This is Wednesday afternoon, still beautiful in the east. Now, unfortunately, our folks in the Central Plains, not so much for you. Again, it looks like it's going to stay muggy and hot, but east of the Mississippi specifically here, these dew point values stay low for a while. This is getting into next Friday and Saturday. And again, still pockets of dry air hanging on. So this is about as good as it gets this time of year. So you're going to want to get out there and enjoy it. And just to give you an idea of temperatures to go with this, this is Wednesday afternoon high temperatures, widespread 70s, even 60s into the northeast, into some of those higher terrains, only getting into the 80s into the Carolinas and Tennessee. Again, Texas, northbound up through the Great Plains. Unfortunately, this is not your event for a cooler, drier air. But again, east of the Mississippi here, it's gonna feel nice for sure compared to what you're probably expecting for this time of August. And then look at these low temperatures. This is the really impressive part. Whenever we get that dew point to drop, if I don't punch the mic, sorry. I really like talking with my hands when there's a microphone in front of my face. That probably complicates things. But whenever we get these dew points to drop this low, that really allows the air temperature to drop as well. Dry air has a much kind of higher flux with temperatures than kind of moist air does. It's just kind of laws of water there, laws of thermodynamics, or whatever you want to call it. Again, we could get low temperatures down into the 40s into portions of the Northeast. In fact, the higher terrains of West Virginia, North Carolina even, yeah, we're going to get some low temperatures down into the 40s. I think somebody's probably going to hit the 30s up, especially towards the Northeast into those higher terrains. But even outside of there, through the Piedmonts, down into the 60s and 50s, it's gonna be a really nice, refreshing kind of a feeling here, and a good old reminder that fall is knocking on the doorstep, which means that winter's knocking on the doorstep after that, and all sorts of exciting things on down the road. So again, I appreciate y'all joining me for the video today. I'll be back tomorrow with another one during the morning hours, probably about the same time that this one comes out, with the latest information. So y'all have a great rest of your Saturday. Get out there and enjoy it if you can. Try to avoid those showers and storms, and get excited for that fall air on the way.